So if we look at the Johan Rupert one, guys, there are so many of these. I'm a bit frustrated with the Bankso one, but have a glance at that. And it's getting better. It is getting better. And the worst of it is that the technology is becoming so readily available that I have friends who are really deeply involved in IT, but they're not involved in AI or data science, that have had their own deep fakes made as a joke. So the Anton Rupert one is him trying to convince us that we should invest in this new business scheme of his. He talks about how he is the wealthiest person in South Africa. Hold on, I'm not very good with this. Let's just see if it pops up. Where is it? No, it's not showing there. See, it's taking me on a wild goose chase. Let's just see what this one does. This is the one. Guys, there it is. You can glance at it. You can have a glance at that. But it is disturbing, and it's him convincing us. The same with Elon Musk. The Johan Rupert one is better. The Johan Rupert video is better because technology has moved on since the Elon Musk one. Yeah, the Elon Musk one was very weak. But the reality is, it's a scam, and people fall for it. So in terms of AI, for me, it's about the mundane, and it's about getting rid of the mundane. The one thing that we also know is that you have to 100% get ready in terms of this new world, because the worst thing you can do is fall behind and never catch up again. So you need to read, you need to understand, you need to appreciate what is going on in the world around these kinds of elements. The other one that I wanted to share, which was also interesting, where is that? No, wrong one. Silly. Yeah. Now, did anyone get a chance to glance through this? So why the Oppenheimer moment? What was Oppenheimer famous for? There was a movie recently about that. Gerardo, I'm going to come back to the jobs falling away, but yeah, it's the atomic bomb. It's the atomic bomb. So some people believe that this is as dangerous as the atomic bomb. And I don't know if people had a glance at any of these. But the thing is, anything uncontrolled in the wrong hands will be dangerous. And it's about how we use it. I think my biggest fear in terms of AI is that it will first take foothold in the arms industry, and that's what will happen, because what we do first is we build the war machines, and then we commercialize it in terms of other things. Well, yeah, I think in education it is a real concern, but for me the fact is, as much as AI will play a significant role in education, you will still need the foundational stuff. I think one of the dangers is the difference between education and information. I think what often happens is that we encounter information, but without the foundation, you don't know whether you should trust the information. So for me, it has massive implications. But what it does in terms of implications, the implications is that from education perspective, we need to start teaching the foundational stuff, the non-negotiable stuff, and we need to start assessing the non-negotiable stuff, and then not assess information. And for me, the knowledge part is always there, because you could watch the Anton Rupert clip and believe it to be true. And why would you do that? Because it's information and you have this lack of foundation in terms of education. I don't know if that was a good explanation, Cleo. And then the last one, yeah, the jobs that will disappear. Who had a glance at these guys? Who had a glance of these jobs that will disappear? So the first one, office support. For me, the mundane. I think a lot of office support stuff is mindless, repetitive, soul-destroying work. Chelsea, you're absolutely right, Chelsea. People's livelihood is at stake, but there will be new jobs that are created. New jobs will definitely be created, and I think we need to remember that there will be new jobs that we might not even know will be required in the future. So, office support. Agree with me at least that this is mundane stuff. The truth is, we don't need administrative roles. It is soul destroying. And if you are an admin, I apologize, guys, because I'm completely useless at admin. And um, I'll talk about the retail workers as well, Gerardo. There will definitely be new jobs, Walter. There will definitely, and I'll show you guys changes in terms of new jobs. So office support, yeah, will disappear. Again, in my mind, mindless stuff. Customer service and sales. What one of my honor students is doing this here is she is looking at, again, Gen Xs, so my generation, although I'm on the cusp of being a baby boomer, she's looking at why Gen Xs struggle so much to deal with chatbots where we want face-to-face customer service. And it seems to be a real issue. So the truth is, I have to get used to these customer service chatbots. I despise them completely because they don't answer the questions that I have, where it appears to be a Gen X issue. Anyone here comfortable with chatbots? It is resistance, absolutely resisting change. It really is resisting change. But I like the idea of talking to someone. I despise sending WhatsApp. That's why I have voice note. Yeah, I despise the idea of chatbots. Okay. Now, in terms of jobs that are safe, I think this is a little bit premature. I think we will have significant AI involvement in mining going forward. Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely, Charles, 100%. Guys, and then, yeah, I want to show you now. Let me quickly do the search. Let me move that across. So these are jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago. There are 10 of them. Let me see. See, I'm always a little bit reluctant to open the site because I don't know how trustworthy it is. Okay, yeah, no, this one is pretty good. So let's look at jobs that did not exist 10 years ago. And guys, do you know how quickly 10 years goes? It's like that. It's a blink in time. So user experience designers. I think you guys know what that is. It is when you go into chat rooms, websites, etc. You want an experience that customers will enjoy. App developers, obviously in Android, etc. Cloud computing. Okay, this is now my kid. That is what my oldest kid does. So and then anything to do with AI, anything to do with cryptocurrency. The interesting one is one of my oldest son's friends did his pilot's license and then converted his pilot's license into a drone license. The belief is that drones will deliver, that will take the place of couriers in the future. So he's now taken the pilot's license and turned it into a drone license. Okay. Data miners, we know what they are. These are people that go and look for data around certain things. I don't know what that is. Virtual reality consultant. Oh yeah, Gerardo in Rwanda, in the rural areas, they deliver medicine using drones because it's very difficult to access certain areas because of the geography. Yeah, Chelsea, and that's all those movie things that we will see come to reality in your and your children's lives. And I think drone delivery has been in Rwanda for a while now, and it's about medicine to rural areas. And then Uber driver. 10 years ago, there wasn't an Uber driver. So you will see that there will be new jobs added all the time. What you need to realize, though, is that you need to reskill yourself. And reskilling is, yes, getting a new qualification is important. But I think if you can learn one thing from this qualification is how to learn, how to discern rubbish from fact, building a foundation, because you will, yeah, absolutely. Mr. D was not a thing back then. Guys, I think what you will see over the next 10 years is that you will change careers a number of times. People don't stay in a single career anymore. It's this movement across sideways into new areas, into new specialities. It's that idea of the versatilist. Right, let's have a glance at and yeah, sorry, and I wanted to see if I can um, jobs that don't yet exist. Um, I wanted to show you this one. Now, these are the jobs of the future, guys. Programmer. I think you guys know what quantum computing is. Climate change scientist, rocket design architect. Now, universities are now training people for jobs that we don't know are jobs yet in the future. Gosh, I hope I said that the right because it sounded really messy in my head. And then, yeah, this one as well. So, guys, there are jobs will happen in the future. There will be jobs in the cultured meat farmers. One of the issues in terms of meat is that our traditional way with cattle, etc., causes a lot of methane. Methane adds to greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases add to climate change, and all of that essentially will be done. Your meat will be bred in a laboratory. I don't know if bred is the right word, but yeah, your meat will be made in a laboratory. And already we have laboratory meat. Yeah, I mean, ek is Afrikaans. Do you understand how difficult it is for a Dutchman to understand that a steak doesn't come from something that eats grass? It is synthetic meat, Brett. 100%. It is synthetic meat, and it's going to be the future. So yeah, if you see some of the others, yeah, blockchain crypto specialists, hazardous waste engineers, let's just see which one this is. Okay, yeah, no, so it's given us that as well. Uh, I think a lot of jobs will disappear. People who don't reskill, people who don't remain relevant will disappear as well. But Chelsea, if you want to see the future, watch movies. If you want to see the future, watch movies. Every single prediction that we have appeared somewhere in a movie. We know that Star Trek gave us the flip phone and a range of other things. Watch the movies if you want to see the future. Walter, the sad truth is your generation. Yeah, can I just say, guys, your generation will live to 100 comfortably. People who are in their 20s, you guys will comfortably live to 110. And I know that there are concerns around our bodies, but if we see how people have evolved over the last 100 years, we've had stuff pumped into our bodies already. I mean, people are getting bigger. People, yeah, I mean, I always think of the rugby side. If you look at the 1995 rugby side compared to the rugby side now, the ones who, yeah, well, there is a real chance that you will become bionic because they 3D printing organs already. That you will become bionic. Oh gosh, yeah, right. So I think we have wandered so far away from change management, but I think we know that the world is going to be very different. Right. Let's go through this. I think in terms of organizations who survive are those that reinvent themselves. Organizations who survive are those that remain relevant. I think the worst thing that can happen to you is if you have your Kodak moment. Kodak, the biggest camera provider, supplier. Also, the worst thing about Kodak is that the engineer that designed um, oh gosh, that designed digital photography actually worked for Kodak, went to Kodak and said to them, "This is the future," and they said, "Absolutely not. This is not the future. We know that the future is people who will come in and have a spool developed." Now, I know some of you won't even know what a spool film is, and the same with BlackBerry, and the same with Blockbuster, and the same with Mr. Video, and the same with Kodak. Uh, If you do not make these changes, you will not survive. Yeah, boy, when you had a spool, you made sure that the pictures you took were planned and perfect. You didn't just click, 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 click. Because, I mean, a picture that's a dodge is one less that you keep. Those spools were dodgy as hell. So, in terms of changes to organization, and then we see where the forces come from. And the reason I started with AI tonight, that is one of the key external forces that will change what organizations look like. I mean, we already have Amazon in the UK, where and it's Amazon Fresh, I think it's called, where they don't have people serving you. And it's a greengrocer. You go in, you select your items, you walk out. As you walk out, the items are charged to your Amazon account. No interface with people whatsoever. I'm sure it's called Amazon Fresh. And I don't even know if we've discussed it in this class. I lecture quite a bit. Guys, and then internal forces is where, yeah, we re-look at our business and we ask the serious question, which you have to ask all the time: what needs to change? Because the belief that everything is okay is never ever appropriate anymore. The most dangerous thing in any business is something called a success groove. And a success groove is when you've done something in a particular way for long enough that that you believe that that is the future. And those are the most dangerous things. So Kodak and Nokia and BlackBerry fell into the success groove thing. So you need to relook at your organization all the time, and it's about reinvention. Guys, can I also just say, think of yourself as an organization. You need to reinvent yourself. You need to constantly find ways of reinventing yourself. I think this is a good place to start in terms of your postgraduate qualifications, but I can promise you, you're going to have to do a lot more. Tanya, 100%. Restaurants fail because they believe they become good at one thing, and they don't renew and reinvent because there's so many trends that happen that restaurants miss. I mean, there's a restaurant in New York, I think, that only uses recipes generated by ChatGPT. So it goes into ChatGPT and it asks ChatGPT to generate a recipe around a meat dish, and they cook it according to that recipe. So it's so out there that they actually attract customers. And that's what reinvention is. Guys, in terms of planned and reactive change, where do we get planned change? Can we plan for changes in the future? Is it still possible to look into the future and anticipate changes in the future? How predictable is the environment at this stage? How predictable is the environment at this stage? Not much. We can't even guesstimate what the potential poll outcomes will be in the South African elections. And in the past, you could predict that with relative certainty. It's you can't predict anything. Nothing is certain. Nothing is guaranteed down the line. And also, we see new product launches that disappear overnight because it was based on incorrect assumptions. Because assumptions change all the time. So the truth is very difficult to predict. When you get it right, wonderful. You know, COVID happens, you take your business that used to manufacture alcohol and turn it into a business that manufactures hand sanitizer. Wonderful news. But those are all reactive, catching up because we didn't anticipate certain changes. And the truth is, new changes will happen all the time. um, Donald Trump, in terms of him being in court at the moment, I honestly believe that if Donald Trump is found not guilty, and if Donald Trump then wins the election, we would see the greatest democracy of all collapse into an authoritarian rule. All that Trump will do is he'll put his lackeys into key positions, and America will fall as a democracy. Well, I think it's pretty good to sometimes live under a rock, because when you look at how awful the world is, the ostrich syndrome is not the worst thing. We were on holiday, or it must be, or it was before COVID, so it must be about 2018. And I don't know if you guys remember, the Penny woman wrote something about people and the beach. Um, and there was an uproar around that. I can't even remember. She died last year or the year before. And she referred to people as a certain thing, and there was so much uproar over that. It's Penny Parrot, guys. I'm very sure it was Penny Parrot. Hold on. Where is it? Um, is it her? Hold on. Yeah, here it is. Golly. Who remembers this? Yeah, I accept. Okay. Who remembers that incident? I was on holiday when all of this happened. Um, we were away at the beach for 3 weeks, and I didn't look at news once. And you know that moment when you realize how wonderful it is to be blissfully unaware? I had that until I came back into the real world, and I just saw all the nonsense that happened. What year was this? 16. I think you're right. Sometimes under the rock isn't the worst place in the world. So let's look at some of the ways of changing and some of the models. Now, these models are ancient, guys. I think we have to realize that these models were created at a time when things didn't happen rapidly. So, in terms of the Lewin model, it talks about three stages: unfreezing, changing, and then refreezing. So, let's say you have a manual system, a manual record keeping system, and you want to implement a computer based, cloud based record keeping system. The unfreezing is where you take people's books away and you say to them, you cannot use these books, the manual books, anymore. The implementation is where you train them, you move them onto the cloud technology. And then the refreezing is when that becomes the culture in the organization and people don't do the whole, oh, it was so much nicer when we had the manual system. What is wrong with that step in the model? What is wrong with the refreezing step in the model? Nothing can be refrozen anymore, guys. The world changes so quickly that the moment you've made the change, you are preparing for another change. The moment you've made the change, you are already reskilling or re-updating the software for another change. So the refreezing is not the reality of the current world. The moment you refreeze, you become irrelevant. And you can see the suggestions there. So the other option is the systems view. And guys, you remember the systems theory. Organizations are part of an open system. Inside an organization, there are sub-elements, and the organization in its entirety need to be in step or remain in step with the external environment, and the sub-elements need to remain in step with each other. I think we've seen that. And the way you survive is through the kind of updates and changing and being relevant. Um, I quite like the idea of um, Darwin's theory or Darwinian theory where you are fit for purpose, because Darwin indicated to us 100 years ago that those animals that essentially evolved to become fit for purpose are the ones that survive. And the same thing applies to organizations. Darwin's theory applies to organizations. Organizations that remain fit for purpose are the ones that survive. This is, yeah, this is an interesting one. This is Kotter's theory. Um, No, it's not Koch's theory. I'm talking rubbish. It's one that they've created themselves, but it has elements of Koch's theory. My apologies. So the first one is recognizing the need for change. Recognizing the need for change. If you think of the organization where you work now, and remember, guys, what happens here stays here. How many things can you think of that need changing at right now, that they dodge, they need to change? How many things? I can think of several systems that need to change in one of the places I contract to. Several systems that cause so much headache. Mandy, a lot. And I suppose the next question, yeah, Charles, too many companies are top heavy. Yeah, absolutely. Healthcare needs to change as well. When you say a lot, Mandy, what would happen if you left it unchanged? What would be the consequence of leaving it unchanged? Anyone else can answer as well. If you have things that need to change in your organization, what would be the consequence of leaving it unchanged? Yeah, in fact, it won't not move forward. It will start going backwards. I think because your competitors are updating. Oh, Brett, they fester, boyo. They fester. The reality is, we think mountain, molehill, molehill, mountain. It becomes a mountain in reality. The second one is what the change must look like once it's been effectively dealt with. Let me say that again. So the goals there, once we know the deficiency, that one there is what the change must look like once it's been effectively dealt with. So, in terms of that, to make that happen, these are the sub elements of change. These are the sub elements of change. So, let's look at a recognition for change. I need to lose weight. Okay. My goal is to weigh a certain amount. Now, let's look at the variables. I have to change diet. I have to stop drinking so much beer. I have to start exercising more, etc., etc., etc. Now you look at the change technique, and whatever it is that thing that will take you from the deficiency to the goal. That change technique. And it could be anything, guys. It could be structural in terms of the top heavy company, Charles. It could be upskilling people, reskilling people. It could be a system, a policy change. It doesn't really matter. And then implementation, and then making sure this evaluation and follow up for me is almost an auditing thing. It is quite a nice process because it takes something complicated and it divides it into a step by step process. My concern is that we know these models exist and people can't get past the first step. People can't get past the first step. And why can't people get past the first step? Guys, why can't people get past the first step? They're in denial, absolutely. And what was the first exercise we did and made videos of? People are creatures of habit, and those kind of resistance happen. That's it, Leah, spot on. People are creatures of habit. And we know in terms of our silly little exercises earlier, my gosh, if we feel uncomfortable changing the way we fold our arms and clasp our hands, yeah, imagine changing an entire organization. Yeah, people don't like change. They don't want to change their behaviors. Spot on. So, in terms of resistance to change, these are some of the reasons why people resist change. I think one of the worst things you can do to anyone in an organization is say to them, we're changing, but we don't tell them why, and we don't tell them what the new normal would be. One of the most evil things, and I know evil is a bit of a harsh word, one of the most evil things you can do to your employees is to announce changes, but not telling them why it's necessary, and also not telling them what the new normal will be. Does that happen in organizations where people are uncertain as to why the heck we're doing certain things? It's communication. Absolutely, Tanya. And I think it happens often. I sometimes think of changes and I think this is ridiculous because no one's actually told me why, and no one's actually told me what the new normal will become. The second one, and Chelsea, this is going to hit your organization hard. The truth is, those people in senior management, those top heavy people, imagine trying to reduce their numbers because it impacts their pockets, it impacts their self image, it impacts their ego, it impacts their own sense of self worth. I think a lot of people will cling on to power or cling to power, will cling on to old ways of doing things because, you know, I'm an expert at this. I don't want to learn the new way because I'm the only one that can do this. And I think that is one of the most painful things to deal with. That change will mess with your self interest. And then different perceptions. For me, I always think of when Walmart came to South Africa. I think as a customer, I thought, great, we're going to get nice new products, we're going to get reasonable prices. The shareholders were excited because it expanded the portfolio of the organization. Suppliers got excited because there were new supply chain and additional products they could supply. And everyone thought, great idea, except who? There was one group that resisted significantly. Who was that? Not baby boomers. It was the trade unions, guys. The trade unions nearly scuppered that well now Walmart owns the majority share. Because one of the things that Walmart does, it operates a lean system. And when you have lean systems, you immediately need fewer employees. So, what the trade unions were saying is if we bring in Walmart with their world class systems, our people lose jobs. So again, it's about self-interest, but it also was about different perceptions. They didn't think that new jobs and new skills would be required. It was the trade unions because of job losses, and they nearly, as I said, scuppered the deal. And then feelings of loss. Has anyone ever been in an organizational setting where people go, "Oh, remember when? Oh, it was so much fun. Remember when we used to?" Ooh, I don't know. I think it happens everywhere. Remember when? Give me some examples of. Can I tell you at one of my main source of income? It's yeah, it's Maritzburg Varsity College. We we it was so different back then, and when we sometimes reminisce, then we'll go, oh, remember when we had the water fights? We used to have the most insane water fights between lecturers that you would arrive soaked at class. Now that is just childish, and but unfortunately I absolutely enjoyed that. But the truth is, the moment you start reminiscing, you are talking about that. And everyone has those ways of dealing with change. Yeah, participation. If you're part of the change, if you make recommendations, you essentially are part of the solution. In terms of people who don't know, who are in the dark, education, communication, make people aware. And then these others, not to change anything. It's that bite-sized chunks. And then also do not spring change on people. Make people aware in advance. And then, yeah, let people adjust. Everyone takes time to adjust at their own pace. Yeah. This is one of my this is one of my favorite models. And to be honest with you, I use it, and I think you use it unconsciously as well. I it's the idea of the force field analysis. And what a force field analysis does, it looks at change, but it looks at the options that drive the change and the options that essentially suggest we should keep things the same way. And it's balancing those. So you're constantly measuring things that would force the change, that make us require the change, but you also balance that against the things that are good and the things that we want to keep. Those kinds of analyses are fantastic, guys, in taking decisions, even in taking decisions in your life. A friend of mine, and I think he's too old to be living at home still. He's 38. I think he should have moved out ages ago. But he asked, what do you do? And he said, okay, what does it mean to move away? The reasons for moving: more freedom, can do what I want. Parents don't rely on me so much. And then reasons against. And well, I save a fortune. My mom does my clothes and my food. And it's quite interesting. In any change, you can do this in your life. That force field analysis is pretty impressive. Guys, in terms of the things we change, and we would have touched on all of those already, the kind of jobs, the departmentalization, and often this is about flattening the organization, and then bringing in new technologies. Now, sadly, these new technologies now include AI, and then changing people in terms of those elements. And a key part of that is about competency, because if people believe they can do things, and I'm rushing now and I hate it so much, then obviously they're also one of the key change areas. Guys, will someone remind me next week that we start here? Because I'm losing people, and we'll leave it there tonight. I'm not going to remember where I stopped.